2015, I did a thing. I did something that scared me, something that excited me, something that was unknown to me. In 2015, I published a book. That book was called Wrapped in Skin. And from that day, it has changed my life consistently. Almost daily, it has affected me. And my hope is that everyone who's picked the book up from that time has had some impact, been impacted in some way by the words on those pages. This is an opportunity for us to unpack those concepts, to really dive deep. You'll get a front row seat to hear me talk to people about what it is to live a life of purpose. What is existence? What is life itself? Why are we here? You'll get to ask your questions, have comments heard and talked about on the show. And maybe at some point, some of you will have an opportunity to come on and talk about your own personal experience and your own life's journey. My name is Justin Jamar Grooms, and I want to welcome you to Wrapped, the podcast. All right, what's up? Back with another episode of the Wrapped in Skin podcast. I'm your host, Justin Jamar Grooms. And look, I always say I'm excited about these episodes, but this one right here, it's not often you get to talk to someone that you not only have a history with, but you also have admired from a distance for a few years. So but before I get into the introduction, I want to remind you, as always, to go back and watch the previous episodes. If you haven't watched the previous episodes of this season, they have blessed so many people. I can't tell you how many comments and DMs that I've gotten. More than the last episode, more than any I've gotten so far. So if you haven't checked out the past 3 episodes of season 3, go back and watch those. Obviously, watch season 2, listen to season 2 if you haven't already. And season 1, if you feel like watching those first 3 episodes, do that as well. It kind of gives you some backstory and some insight into who I am, what this is about, and what we try to do here at the Wrapped in Skin podcast. Okay, so without further ado, there's not many people once you do a Google search of their name, and the name literally says greatness. You put that into a Google search and it all comes up. Some people call themselves great, but the public doesn't necessarily see it that way. So it may not come up in a Google search. But when you put this person's name in, just as she has laid it out, is how it comes up in a Google search. I've known this person probably, date myself, I would say probably at least 13 years, maybe 14 years, but it's been a while. It's been a while. We go back. So my guest today is Miss Jael The Great. I said that right. Don't get on me, because
Jael,
if you go to her Instagram, she just gave a PSA about this. So I'm so excited to have her because,
thank you.
like I said, I've known her for quite some time and always have admired her work ethic, her relationship with God, how she pours her heart out to people, and the stuff she's doing recently. I'm just extremely excited about hearing more and diving into that. So, Jael, welcome. It looks great wherever you are. It looks great. You look great. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
This is where I record my auditions.
Oh, okay.
But I pull down like a black backdrop or whatever color. But this is where I record my auditions.
Yeah. Well, it looks great. Looks great.
Thank you for having
as we just talked about, I'm in Southern California and it's raining. It's been raining for 2 days. It's going to rain for 2 more days.
Wow.
So we're getting it. So
the rain is
but how you been? How's everything going?
Everything is wonderful. I have no complaints. I'm so grateful. I am just grateful. I am peaceful and I am abundant.
Oh, I love that. And then, people say that all the time, but I feel like you're one of those people who really genuinely mean it when you say it.
I mean it with everything in me. I mean it.
Yeah.
I am peaceful and abundant. I'm grateful. I'm blessed. I'm favored. I'm happy. I'm excited about life. I am in purpose. All is well. It's a choice. All is well. That's my perspective.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And, I want to start obviously from the beginning, but just to that point, have you always had that perspective, or have you had to do work to get there. No dive into the work yet, if that's a fact. But
Right.
has it always been kind of your outlook on life, or is that something that you had to arrive at?
So, okay, I have to say this because I get asked this
Okay.
question a lot.
Hmm.
Some of it is I came here this way for my purpose, right?
Okay.
So some of it is wiring that I came here with because of the work that I was created to do in this avatar.
I like
Another
that. I
part
love it
of it
already.
is another part of it, which is kind of the same thing, Justin, is the parents that I chose gave me what I needed again for this purpose work and the reason that I'm here. So,
Mm.
yes, in a sense, I did come here powerful and positive because my parents always spoke and still do always have spoken life into me, right? Since I can remember, my parents have always given me tools and let me know that I am magnificent, that I am beautiful, that I can do whatever I'm purposed to do.
Hmm.
So I did get that growing up. But let me say this, if you did not get it growing up, that does not mean you still can't get it because your parents can't give you everything,
That's
right?
right.
So there are some
Yeah.
things that I had to develop on my own in my rites of passage to adulthood. And I had to
Hmm.
make conscious choices, right, at that point to not only apply what I was taught by my parents and to believe it and to move that way, but I also had to take responsibility, right, and do the personal development and do the work because your parents can give you that, right, or your mentors, but if you're not receiving it or you're not doing it on your own and keeping it up, it's not going to stick.
Yeah.
So I hope
And
that
we
answers
talked
it.
about, in one of our previous conversations, we talked about having that perspective, right? That
Yeah.
perspective, that outlook on life that you get to choose, right? You get to make a choice. I'm wondering though, going back to your parents and your upbringing, can you tell us a little bit about where you're from, where this thing we call life started for you, um, and what that relationship was like early on with your parents?
Okay. So I'm from the Midwest. I grew up in the Midwest.
Okay, all right.
My
I
mom
didn't
and
know
dad
that.
met in college. Hmm. You can't tell I'm a Midwest girl. It's okay.
I mean, I think Atlanta's kind of rubbing off on you.
Oh,
You
what?
got a southern you got a southern vibe. You've got a southern vibe.
I do.
You
Is
do. You
oh,
do.
is that good or is
Yeah.
that what does
That's
that
good.
mean?
No, that's a great thing. That's a great thing.
Oh,
I,
well,
I don't I think Midwesterners and Southerners are similar in a lot of ways though.
yeah, because everybody from up north, they came from like Mississippi,
That's right.
Alabama. So
Yeah.
my dad is from Mississippi. My mom is from Memphis, and I
Yeah, the
spent
great migration.
exactly. So it's really
Yeah.
the same difference. So my
Hmm.
parents met in college. They met at Jackson State, where I graduated from, and they moved to Illinois, had their
Okay.
family, and again, they just raised their children in a loving, beautiful environment. Like I'm just really grateful, for my parents and how they chose to parent us, you know.
Now, brothers, how many siblings do you have?
I have an older sister and a younger brother.
Got you. Right in the
I'm in
middle.
the middle. I'm in the
How
middle,
is it?
but
Go ahead.
so I just learned this though, right, Justin?
Okay.
I'm in the middle, but there's a big gap between me and my brother. So I was the
Huh.
baby for a long time. And I
Oh,
never
got you.
thought,
I see.
right. So people are like, you don't have the middle child syndrome, whatever that is. I don't even know what that is, but whatever. I'm like,
Yeah, man.
absolutely not. I don't feel left out. That's just not me. I don't have that personality. But
Got it.
somebody was like, well, Jael, that's because you were the baby for such a long time. So yes, I'm
That
in the
makes
middle.
sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that age gap. I think that age gap makes a difference on both sides. You know, my brother's seven
Right.
and a half years older than me. I got a little sister who's 8 years younger than me. So
Yeah.
kind of similar situation with
Oh,
you.
so we're both
So
middle babies.
yeah, kinda. I mean, I've got two older sisters who are older than my brother as well.
Oh, okay.
But for a long time, I was the baby. You know, so.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so you were kind of instilled with those traditional Southern Midwestern values
Mhm.
from jump. It sounds like. So
Yeah.
to your point earlier, you got this kind of, I guess I would call it, for lack of a better term, traditional, for me, a traditional upbringing, and you were in a nuclear household. I mean, I'm assuming, are your parents still together, and have they always been
They are
together?
still together and they're so funny. Yes.
Yeah.
They are still
And do you think, and that, I'm assuming that shaped you, or given you perspective on? We'll get into all the stuff that you're doing right now with men and that
Yeah.
development, but talk a little bit about your relationship with your father.
Oh my God. I am so in love with my dad. I think he is
Yeah.
one of the greatest men ever. So my dad really showed me and shows me what unconditional love really is, right?
Mm.
So my dad is a pastor. Um he has, well, that doesn't mean you do, but my dad is like a true pastor. My
Yeah,
dad
that's
really
not
has a
that's not
pastor's
even.
heart.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a whole different conversation for another
Okay,
day.
exactly. So my father, so he truly embodies what a pastor is supposed to be. When I say that, I mean, I'm not talking about his humanity because he's still a person. So just
Hmm.
because I think what people get confused is the calling and the humanity. Because just because
Yeah,
I'm called to do something right and I'm anointed to do something, I'm still a human. I'm still
that's
flawed.
right.
I'm not perfect. So no pastor is perfect. That is just what they're called to do. That's just like if you're a heart surgeon, right? Your hands were created for them to be steady, for you to be able to,
So true.
right. But you may have a horrible diet. You probably eat, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So okay. So
Well,
let me
it's
go
even to the
back.
point where, like, we introduce ourselves and we say, I'm Justin, and this is who I am. And usually, who I am is connected to what it is that you do. It's
Right.
connected to the action and not really who you are as an individual. So I completely get what
Yes.
you're saying. Yeah.
Perfect. So my dad like really taught me and shows me unconditional love. Not just showing me, but how he treats people. And that really shaped like how I treat people and how I love people. And I always tell people, if I were born male,
Hmm.
I would be running the church with my dad. Like I would be in Illinois right now, like his associate pastor. That's what I would be doing. But my dad is a Baptist pastor and they're still very traditional. So yeah. But if I was like a male, I would be like running the church with my dad. Anyway, so I got so much of
Well,
that from
can
him.
we hold on now? You can't. We can't just
Okay.
skip over that now, because
Oh,
did
okay.
you did you have a desire at any point to do that with your father?
Okay. So I don't like telling people this, but I guess I will.
You tell, yeah, tell. We only got a few listeners. Don't worry about
I don't know. So okay, so yes and no. Let me
it.
explain
Okay.
yes and no.
Okay.
So I got ordained in 2010, right?
Oh
So
wow. Okay.
I am an ordained minister, ordained pastor. However, I don't tell people that because I don't tell people that because I don't people when you tell people that, people automatically put you in this box, in this category, and I am myself. When
Hmm.
God called me and chose me, God called and chose everything about me and every part of me, and God knew all about me. So I don't really lead with that, but I show that in how I love people, right? So my ministry or me pastoring is more of like pastoring the world, if that makes sense. So
Yep.
like what I do with the men, when I do self-care Sunday in the park at Piedmont Park when it gets warm, that's not a traditional church, but for people it's church, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so and then when I go home and I'm at my dad's church, I always preach or teach, whatever people want to call it. I'm
Okay.
always in his study with him with the other ministers. I'm the only woman in there. You know what I mean? So I do it in a way that respects what they believe.
Got it. Makes total sense. Now, what about your brother? Is he involved at all with the
No.
church? Okay.
So my brother
Okay.
my brother lives in Phoenix.
Got it.
Mhm. Yeah. So no, he's not like, I don't think my brother ever desired to like minister, not in that traditional sense.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
But he's my brother's,
So
loves God, very spiritual, but not like a preacher.
yeah. So I feel like we were kind
I
of
feel
raised the same way. You and I were raised similar. I'm assuming, I was in church every time the doors open. My mom was heavily involved in church. She was
Mhm.
Sunday school superintendent. She was Sunday school teacher. She sang in the choir, all that
Okay.
stuff. So I'm assuming your upbringing is similar to mine in that sense. What do you feel that the impact of church, not just your father being a pastor, but being in that environment, um, added to your life and kind of what you do currently? And again, we'll talk about all that you do because there's so much that you have going on.
Hmm. So growing up in church shaped me beautifully. I don't like
Mm.
everything that I was taught as far as doctrine and things. I don't agree with everything anymore as far as like just some things I was taught. But I am so grateful for the foundation that I have, like going to Sunday school, doing my Easter speeches, speaking in front of people,
Yeah,
singing in the choir. That was a really, I think, for I don't take that for granted, and I know that it was necessary for my journey. So I think growing up in church definitely has a big part of why I am the way that I am and why I move the way that I move, for sure.
yeah, yeah. There was I talk about this a lot. There was a time in my life where the some of the beliefs and doctrine that I grew up with, I was challenged, or I had to challenge them based on what I saw and what I experienced and my new revelations and my relationship with God. As my relationship with God deepened,
Hmm.
it required me to revisit some of those things that I'd been taught, and that to me was a difficult time in my life. It was a time where I was really struggling with who I was, what I believed,
Hmm.
what my place was in this world. It
Hmm.
happened several times. I think the first time it happened to me was in college, early on in college, when I was removed from my grandmother's household and didn't have that structure, and I was kind of on my own trying to figure things out from a spiritual standpoint.
Hmm.
And then it happened again in my early or my late 20s, early 30s, where I was really like,
Hmm.
I there's so many things that I'm getting revelations about that don't fit neatly into
Yeah.
this Baptist doctrine that I was raised with.
Did it freeze?
What did it happen for you at some point, and when was that point when it happened for you? We're back. I don't know how much of that we lost, but hopefully we didn't lose too much. But we are back. Who knows what's going on
Perfect.
in LA right now? I mean, we had an
Yeah.
earthquake like last week.
It's time for you to
So
move.
I know this may be a
It's
sign.
time.
This may be a sign. Well, so what I was talking about is my upbringing in church and kind of how there were a couple of times in my life where um, I had to kind of challenge some of those intrinsic beliefs that I was raised with. And I was wondering for you, did there come a point in time where you found yourself being challenged in those beliefs, um, directly or indirectly? And if so, when was it? And kind of what were those challenges?
Yeah, for sure. So when you ask me that question, the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, so just follow me.
I'm with you.
Okay, so when I went to college, as you know, when you go to college, you meet all kinds of people, you learn things. And I grew up literally just in a bubble. Okay.
Mm,
When I went to college, I did not know This may sound whatever, but I didn't know that most people came from single parent homes because in where how I grew up, which I'm going to write a TV show about it or a movie.
Well, and
All
just to reiterate, I'm sorry to cut you
oh,
off, but just to reiterate, you went to an HBCU, so
I
that
went
is
to
a
an
very
HBCU,
normal experience for Black Americans
right?
to
So
have
I'm
single parents. Yeah,
around way more people that look like me than I had ever been in my life.
yeah.
But when I grew up, my parents' core group of friends and community, everybody was married. All of my friends' parents were married. All my friends' parents graduated from HBCUs. All of my friends' parents were doctors, attorneys, pastors, entrepreneurs. So that was literally my world from birth until I got to college. And then when I got to
Hmm.
college, and then of course I grew up in the church, so everything was a sin. Sex was a sin. Being gay was a sin. All these different things. So my first recollection of what you're asking me is I start meeting a lot of guys that were gay.
Hmm.
And I had a girlfriend named Tamara, and her uncle was gay. But the only thing I had been taught, Justin, was if you're gay, you're going to hell, right? So I didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
anything other than that. And he died, and apparently when I was like 17 or 18 in college, I said something to her that was offensive, but I didn't know that until like 10 years later she says this to me, right? So it's going to make sense. So as I got to know like people and connect with their spirits and not just choices that they made or choices that they were forced into because something happened to them,
Hmm.
I was like, these are like beautiful people. And then I would hear their stories. I'm like, why would God send this person to hell, right? So what I'm saying is, I that kind of changed in me. I'm like, I stopped judging. So I stopped judging people because of something that I was taught, and I
Yeah,
started
yeah.
like getting to know people and hearing their
Right.
stories. Okay, so that's my first recollection of me being like, I don't know if everybody going to hell just because, or if I don't even really believe there's a hell, but that's a whole other thing. So yes, that's my first encounter with like a little bit of like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's I kind of had a similar experience. I mean, I'm from Kentucky, and I moved a couple different places before I found myself in Atlanta. But
Okay.
Atlanta, when it comes to homosexuality, is obviously a completely different thing than I'd ever experienced, right?
Yes.
And I felt the same way as you. I was taught a certain way about sin and what it was, and then personally, it was something that I didn't understand. I remember I asked my brother this one time, and he'll laugh when he hears this, but I must have been about 14 or 15 years old, and I think we were at the park or something like that, and I said it was a girl walked by. It was a group of girls, and I said something to him to the effect of, "Man, I don't understand how dudes can be gay with all these girls out here."
Yeah.
And my brother said to me something that was so simple but so profound. He said, "You're not supposed to understand it." He said,
Ooh,
"You're not gay. Like
it's something exact.
if you understood it, then you'd be gay."
Right.
And it didn't really register at that point. It wasn't until years later, probably a decade later, where it really made sense to me.
Yeah.
But how do you reconcile that? I mean, obviously that's one situation about one topic, one subject.
Hmm.
But did that force you to kind of explore more about your own spirituality and your relationship with God? Because I feel like a lot of people, when they come to those points of confusion, they do one or two things. They either press in closer to God to get understanding, or they
Yeah.
run away from God completely and the idea of God completely and go the
Okay.
opposite direction. So where were you in that? Did it push you further away from God, or did it force you to lean in for more understanding and discernment?
I feel like it made me more Christ-like. I feel
Oh,
like for me,
explain
it
that.
made me it for me I feel like everything that I questioned brought me closer to God and made me honestly like more Christ-like, meaning it made me more loving. Like Christ was
Hmm.
loving. Christ
Yeah.
was not judgmental. Christ was hanging out with sinners, prostitutes, tax collectors, some of the worst people. The lady that was married 50 billion times and the man she was with was not her
Hmm.
husband. I remixed the Bible, so um,
Me too.
yeah, not on purpose, but yeah. So
Well, it's
for
been
me,
listen. It's been remixed. It's been remixed way
exactly
before we were here.
right. So yeah,
So there's that.
so I
Yeah.
feel like it made me like more Christ-like. It made me more open to people. It made me just like Jael, your who you are and your light. That's what's gonna draw people, and then they'll say to you like, "Okay, what's up with you? What is this? You're different." Then I can tell them,
Mm.
and they choose.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, all the experiences that I've gone through, like I've gone through some crazy stuff with like church people. I'm talking about wicked, crazy stuff. But again, it for me, it led me closer to God. And and you know what else, Justin? Like, so you know how in the Bible where when it says, "Forgive them for they know not what they do."
Yeah.
I didn't want to like I didn't want to like rock with that. I'm like, but I get it. I I
Mm.
understand that, and
Mm.
it helps me have so much grace with not only myself but other people, because we are all only doing what we know to do. Let me take you back to my girlfriend that 10 years later was like, yeah, well, when my uncle died of AIDS, I said, Tamara, I said, that's all I knew to say. You feel me? I didn't know what else to say at 17,
That's
coming from
right.
where I came from, and somebody telling me something about somebody gay and dying of AIDS. That's all I knew to say. So, so
That
Justin,
that experience probably has allowed you because you needed grace in that moment. You needed grace from that person
yeah,
to understand and to know that you had a certain level of awareness and understanding um, that was limited, right?
right,
And the grace that you wanted or was not extended to you, again, I think people have two different choices. If they're not extended grace, then they can perpetuate that cycle of not extending grace to people. Or they can understand how they felt when they weren't given grace and then they give grace to people.
yeah,
And it goes back to the first thing you said when we started,
hmm,
that really your life is a choice. You have, there's these books I read when I was a kid called Choose Your Own Adventure. And you would get to
oh,
the end of a chapter or the middle of a chapter and it would give you a choice. Let's say for an example, you were this hunter gatherer and you
hmm,
came up on this cave and the choice was, do you go inside the cave or do you walk around the cave? And based on your choice, it would tell you turn to page
yeah,
36 if you want to walk around the cave, turn to page 50 if you want to go in the cave. And then there was an outcome, right? And
I love
it
that.
mirrors life. Like that's how life is, that
It
you
does.
have these choices. When you're presenting an obstacle or something happens, you can go this way or that way. And from what I know about you, it seems like that experience and probably several others taught you that as much as you needed grace in that moment, that now you can offer grace to other people because you understand what
Yeah,
it feels like when you don't give grace. Is that accurate?
it is very accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
very.
can sense that for you. Let me.
Yeah.
You said something that I think maybe people missed, and
Mhm.
hopefully, whatever happened with the internet doesn't. We don't. We get to go back and revisit that. But you said that when you chose to come here and chose to be born to your parents,
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people are like, "What is she talking about?"
When I said I
And
picked my parents, yeah.
yeah, that you picked your parents. Um, can you explain what you mean by that in as much detail, but as concise as you? Because I know that's a whole podcast in itself, just
It
that
is.
topic. But can you kind of give the Cliff Notes version of what you mean when you say that?
Yes. And I will say this too. some things are very difficult to put into words because it's just a knowing.
That's right.
Um, but I just connect with that belief. I connect with the belief that I am a spirit being having a human experience. That is the
Wrapped in
belief that,
skin, huh?
yeah, yeah, beautiful. So I connect with that. Somebody may hear that and not connect with it, and guess what? That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But I connect with that. So I really feel like I am a spirit, you know, just like God is a spirit. God created me. And I feel like I chose to come here in this realm, in this avatar that I chose. I feel like I chose my height, my color. I feel like I chose a lot of this, right? And I chose why I came here and what I'm to do. And there are indicators along the way that God gives us to remind us of why we are here. We are drawn to certain things, we are drawn to
Hmm.
certain people, we certain colors, foods, places. All of us are not drawn to the same things. And I believe that we have indicators to remind us, like, okay, Jael, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is why you're drawn to, I'll just use acting, right? This is why you're drawn to acting. It's a part of your purpose. This is why you're drawn to loving on people. This is, so I think I came here to experience being human. And in that, I believe that I chose my parents and I had some sort of knowledge before coming into this flesh suit that we forget because we begin to get programmed by humans and we're in this matrix. And then we're here to
Yeah.
remember who we are.
Hmm.
And there's always signs and omens and clues if we're open and we pay attention. Some of us are just always going to be like a robot and just whatever somebody tells you, you believe. And then some of us are like, no, I don't believe that. There has to be something different. I'm like Neo in the Matrix.
Yeah.
I like, let me tell you, for me, have you seen the Matrix? Have you
Of
ever seen the
course.
movie?
Hmm.
So you know the scene where um after Neo goes through all this drama and he's being beaten up at the end by the, what is it, the agent,
Yep.
and he kind of dies, and then Trinity is like, no, Neo, you can't die because the Oracle told me you were the one. And then he comes back to life because love is stronger than death.
That's right.
Love is powerful. Love brings you back. And then when he woke up and he realized, like, I am the one, and he chose to believe that, the same enemy that he was running from, he just put his hand out and the books dropped, right? So I'm Neo. I
Hmm.
know who I
Hmm.
am. So I don't even know why
You
I
know,
started talking about.
Bruce Leroy did that in the Last Dragon way before Neo
I
did it
know
in the
I love
Matrix.
the Last Dragon. I,
Every year around my birthday, I'll revisit that movie because it
when's your
reminds me
birthday?
of who I am. February 8th. It just passed. It just passed.
Oh, you're an
Yeah,
Aquarius like my dad.
I am. I'm an
Y'all are
Aquarius.
the best
Yeah.
dads ever. I could be
Well, I
biased.
hope so. I haven't had that experience yet. I would like to talk to your dad at some point to get some insight because
Yeah, you
I'll probably
should.
need all the help I can
He's
get.
extraordinary.
So let me ask you this. So when did you come to the realization, that realization? I mean, that is profound. I'll tell you, I came to that realization in, I can always remember the exact day, but it was 2013 when I came to that realization, which is weird because it was in the midst of one of the most difficult times of my life. Um, and it was difficult based on the choices I had made. 2010 was a difficult year because I lost so many people in my life, but those things were outside of my control.
Yes.
In 2013, I was in a space and in a hole that I had dug. Um, and that was the first time that I came to the realization that you just so eloquently articulated, that I was a spiritual being having a human experience, and that place that I was in forced me to be still enough to connect with God so that he could deposit that revelation into me, because I was
Mm,
just moving and moving and moving and doing this, doing that. But when I was forced to sit down and be
yes.
still, and I had no other option but to lean into God, that's when the revelation started to come. But
Wow.
before that, I knew there was something, but I didn't have, quite that revelation. When did it
Okay.
happen for you, and how did it affect how you moved through, or how you started to move through life at that point?
So unlike you, I'm very bad with time because I do know it's an illusion, right? So
Yeah.
I think because I've always probably known that and didn't realize it, I'm not I wish, but there are moments that I remember time wise, but a lot of things I don't,
Hmm.
right? So I don't know
Okay.
an exact moment. Um I don't know. I just
Was it before college, or was it while you were in college? Was it
okay,
after
so
college?
I do remember this. When I was in high school, I do remember this. I remember being in high school and I was with my mom. We had a Toyota van and I was coming
Come
from
on, Toyota
cheerleading
van.
practice. hmm
Okay.
And my girlfriends and I, my mom picked us up from cheerleading practice and my mom was pumping gas. And I remember listening to my girlfriend's conversations in the back of the van. And at that moment, I was like, I'm different. Not
Mm.
better, but I remember being like, I am not like everybody else. Right. And then it was a thought that I had to myself, and I was just like, but it's fine, right? So I think that was kind of like the start of it. And then I was at church. This was all in high school. I remember I was at church and I was walking out to probably go to the sneak to the store and get some chips or something. But I was walking out and this lady, my Sunday school teacher, mentor, she like grabbed my arm. She was like, God is really going to use you. She was like, you are
Mm.
very special. And I was like, girl, okay. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay. I'm in high school. So I do remember moments
Yep.
like that starting in high school.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
When you went to college,
hmm
what was your major, and what did you think you were going to do for a career?
Okay. So, oh my God. I thought I was going to be, okay. At first, no. I always thought I was going to be an attorney once I got to college. So I
Hmm.
was a poli sci major at first.
Okay.
I took intro to poli sci. I have no interest in politics at all. Like not even a little bit.
You know what's
I'm
funny? I
like
can
Bob
see that for you though. There's a certain,
really?
um, yeah. I mean, people say the same thing about me. I think it's the willingness to engage in conversation. I think is
Okay.
part of it, but there's a certain something about you that I could see that. I could see why people would say that.
Okay. So I was poli sci at first because I'm like I'm going to law school, and then I switched to English for undergrad because I hated poli sci. Like I don't care about the
Hmm.
news, and we have to write an article every week about the national and international news. I would have failed. Like I don't watch the news. I don't put that in my spirit. So
Yeah, I
I
don't blame
changed to
you.
English. So I thought I was going to be an attorney, Justin. I was like, I'm going to be an attorney. I'm gonna win every case. I'm gonna be flying the courtroom. And then God was like, "Oh, that's cute." And as you can see, I've done so many other things besides that. But that was my goal.
I took the LSAT. You know that I took the LSAT. My plan was to go to law school right after grad school, was go to law
Yeah,
school. And
I
yeah,
moved here
God
to
had
go to
other
Emory.
plans.
That's the only reason
Yeah.
I came to Atlanta
Oh,
is
is
for
that why you
Emory.
moved to Atlanta? Okay.
That's the
Okay.
only reason I came here. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. So you decided that law school wasn't for you, but at that point, did you know what was for you?
Oh God, no, no. So let
Okay.
me tell you. Okay, so when I moved here, I didn't know it was like. I mean, I guess I kind of knew, but not really. Like it was so big in music and like acting and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I sing. So I was sing all the time in college, and I wanted to do music, but not more. I wanted to do music, but not more than I wanted to be an attorney. I was offered a record deal by these huge artists that everybody in the world knows, and the artist called my parents' house. Um, and this male artist, this particular male artist who they offered me this record deal, was trying to talk to me, and I'm like, y'all are offering me a record deal, but you're being very unprofessional. So Justin, I was so like, I'm going to be an attorney. I literally turned down a record deal from this huge record company because I felt the guy was unprofessional and trying to holler at me.
I
But
don't.
anyway,
I don't guess we're gonna get the name, huh?
no. So
Okay.
anyway,
I won't press.
no, I'm not gonna tell you the name. So anyway, I was dabbling in music as well. So long story short, I get to Atlanta to go to law school at Emory. But I still was like singing. I was meeting all these people, like going to all the studios. I was hanging out with everybody famous. It was just like, I don't know, that's just my path. Um, Pursuing music. So once I started pursuing music and I was like in the studio all the time, I was like, I'm not going to law school. I'm going to do music.
Yeah.
So that's
It's
that
so
first.
crazy how similar our stories. I went to Atlanta for the kind of not the same reason, but I went because I was working a corporate job and
Hmm.
I was living in Lexington, Kentucky, but I was dating somebody. I was looking at houses
Wow.
and then I got a promotion. I got offered a promotion to move to Atlanta, and
Wow.
I had already been modeling and stuff when I lived in Florida, but I had kind of said that wasn't my path. I was going to do the traditional 9 to 5, 401k, wife, kids, picket fence, all
Yeah.
that stuff. And then I moved to Atlanta, and Atlanta was Atlanta.
Right.
It was just I think Tyler had just opened up his studio, and it was a place, right, for young people who wanted to be in entertainment, and kind of the same thing. I found myself being in these circles with people just without trying to be in those circles. I just kind of
Yeah,
kept
me
finding
too.
myself in these places. So it kind of put me on a different path for a while, which is how we met. Um,
Yeah.
and so then you started doing the acting thing, and you've been doing that, kind of ever since, and kind of escalated your path. We did some things together, but now I see you doing amazing things. But
Thank
tell us a
you.
little bit about where you are now. I mean, you're still doing the acting stuff, but there's
Mhm.
a few things that you're really passionate about that are really moving the needle. Can you tell me a little bit about those things?
Okay. So I do so many
And it could be
things.
anything. I mean, I like what you're doing with men. You can start there,
Yes.
or you can talk about anything else you have going on.
Okay. So yes. So I do act. That was totally God as well. Like my whole life has been like these God moments where God was like just clearly opening doors for me. Like, and everything
Yeah.
I'm doing, I never thought I would be doing. Professor at Spelman College. Never thought I would do that. Life
Well, wait a
coaching.
minute.
Never.
Let's go there, because that to me is I remember when you started teaching at Spelman.
And let me tell
Um,
you how that happened. Like everything in my life
yeah.
is like I'm telling you, it's like God whispers. I mean, I'm seriously, Justin. Like
Hmm.
we would have to do a whole other
And
episode.
you had a clip go viral of you. I think that viral
Yeah,
there was a clip that went viral of you teaching or lecturing
yeah.
at Spelman, right?
And I wasn't gonna go to work that day. So really
Look at that.
quickly, because we need a
Yeah.
whole bunch of time for my life. So really quickly, you know how you and I were like in entertainment stuff, right? So
Hmm.
somebody asked me to like host some red carpet stuff. So I was like hosting red carpets. And one of the guys that will hire me to come out and like do the red carpets and interview the entertainers knew that I was speaking because at the time I was speaking like all over the world as well. Y'all, I'm a speaker too.
Hmm.
So one day, this particular guy that I met hosting red carpets, he was like, "Hey, Jael, they're hiring. They need a professor to teach public speaking at Spelman. You travel all over the world speaking. You have a book about, you and your daughter because you were a teen mom. Blah blah blah. You, I think you should apply." So Justin, I'm like, okay. So I apply for this position as a professor at Spelman College. I interview with the dean. The dean is like, "I love you." She's like,
Now, had you considered teaching before that?
"No, not
Okay.
okay." Hold up. Let me back up. I have
Okay.
taught school before, but I was just only doing that like in the interim, like I need something to do right now. But I taught like elementary, junior high. But that was just during a period of my time when I was like transitioning, right? So I never ever had a desire to teach on the collegiate level ever.
Okay.
The dude is like, "Hey, I think you should apply." I applied. I interviewed with the dean. She loves me. She was like, "The girls are gonna love you. They need you." I'm like, "Okay." That's how I started teaching at Spelman. The
Wow.
video that went viral, Justin, I was not feeling well that day. Because normally when I go to work, I love fashion. I'm obsessed with fashion. I'm super fly. This particular day, I was like, God, I'm tired. I don't feel like going. I didn't feel well. But God was like, you gotta go. I'm very obedient, extremely.
Hmm.
So I literally threw on this blue jean jumpsuit. I threw on some cute little tennis shoes, Justin. This lady gave me these glasses to wear in a movie. I put them on. I had my hair in this long braid. I don't know if you I wore that long braid. That used to be my signature. Everybody and their mama started wearing their hair like that. If you notice, I started that. Sade was first, then it was Jael, then it was
Yeah.
everybody else. Anyway,
All right. All right. You know we love Sade.
I love Sade. Oh my God, obsessed. So God was like, go to work. I went to work. I didn't feel like going. My student just so happened to record me, and that video has been seen probably over 50 million times.
Oh, this
All,
wasn't even a planned recording. You didn't know they were recording.
oh, you know how your students? No, she was just like, they just
Yeah.
record me. They're like, she's
Yeah.
so dope. Like we're recording her.
I love that.
That's
You
and I
you,
was
you
fully
spoke
dressed.
about well, yeah,
I
it
was
was yeah,
naked.
it was everything it was everything that you were saying. It had nothing to do with let's be honest, it probably didn't hurt that you're attractive, but
Thank
it
you.
it was definitely about what you were saying. But let me ask you, you said that you heard from God, and I've talked about this on a couple of different episodes of this podcast, but I do believe that people have trouble they believe they have trouble hearing from God, or either have trouble
Right.
discerning God's voice from their own. Um,
Mm,
what was it about? You could talk about that particular time, but or any other time you've heard from God. What does
mhm.
that mean to you, and how do you discern God's voice from your own?
It's another one of those things for me that's I just know it is hard to articulate it, but I will try.
Okay.
So when I hear from God, it's like just a clear knowing.
Mm.
So okay, let me give you an example. So we didn't talk about this, but I'll briefly skim over this.
Yeah.
So
No,
I got
we got
pregnant
time.
as I got pregnant
That was I was gonna go back
as
there, but I'm glad you
right.
went.
So
Let's
I got
go.
pregnant. I was a virgin. Had sex with the guy. Got pregnant. I was trying to abort
How
my
old were you
daughter.
at this point?
I don't. So now we don't do age. I don't
Oh,
do.
I got you. Okay.
So
Well,
I
I
was a
just know
teenager.
how old you were when you had your daughter, but you don't have to tell me that. We can skip over
But I
that.
was a
You were
teenager.
young. You were a
Yeah,
teenager. Okay.
yeah. So I was going to abort my daughter because I mean that wasn't supposed to happen to me. Like, are you kidding me? I have friends that have been having sex forever.
Mm.
And I was afraid. I was in fear. I tell people don't make decisions in fear. Make your decisions in love, please.
Right. That's right.
So
Say
in
that one more
fear,
time because I think that's so important.
okay, please, if y'all don't pay attention to anything else that we say on this podcast today, please do not make your decisions in fear. Make your decisions in love. Let me tell you why for me. So I'm pregnant. Everything is like you can't tell your parents. Your parents are going to be disappointed. I need y'all to really hear me. So my whatever that entity was speaking to me was like, you cannot have that baby. Your parents are going to kill you. You're going to
Mm.
disappoint this father that you love so much. You're going to disappoint your mother. What about your life? What about your plans? It was all bad stuff, right? So I was like, dang, yeah, you're right. I can't do this. So I went, one of my girlfriends who had had an abortion before, she was like, well, Jael, I'll take you to the abortion clinic. So I went to the abortion clinic. And they were like, well, you're not far enough along, so you can't have the abortion. You have to wait. And I was like, okay, I'll wait. So that was the first time I tried to do it. Second
Wait,
time,
what? And this is I'm honest on this podcast, and usually when I hear people having trepidation or maybe the healthcare providers unsure about the abortion, it's maybe you're too far along. But you're saying that there's a point where you're not far enough
I
along. That
wasn't. I guess
got it.
it was.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's too early, there's. I guess I don't know, but that's what they. I never thought about that. But I'm telling you what they told me.
Yeah. No.
So
I
if I was
mean.
like 2 weeks
Okay.
pregnant, maybe I was like, I don't know, I don't remember exactly. But they
Yeah, listen,
told
I'm gonna
me,
tell you. I think the best thing about what I do in this podcast is I'm honest, and there's some things
yeah,
I know well, and there's other things I have
okay.
no clue about, and I'm an avid learner, so I'm always trying to learn myself. So
Yeah, me too. Now
that's
I
just
don't know because I'm
yeah,
not an abortion expert, but all I know is
yeah.
when I went that day with my girlfriend, they told me they could not do it that day because I wasn't far enough. I don't know if it wasn't enough. I don't know. So I didn't do it that day. So they gave
Okay,
me a date to come back. Right? They
got
said
it.
so
Okay,
you right. So they set my appointment for, let's say, whatever the date, uh, December 5th. Okay, so
hmm,
I tell my daughter's father, I said, hey, I have an appointment to have an abortion December 5th. I'm just using that date. It's this much money. I said, I need the money by December 5th because that's my appointment. So December 5th comes. I had a ride because my girlfriend Maya is the only one that knew I was pregnant. But my daughter's father was like, I don't have the money. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have the money? I told you, however many months ago, whatever. I couldn't do it that time. So I told them, I said, I don't have the money. And then they said, well, we have another appointment on March 11th. And they said, but if you don't do it on March 11th, you're going to be too far along.
got it.
So,
Okay.
okay, March 11th is my birthday, Justin. So, in fear,
Wow.
I was going to have you guys, an abortion on my birthday. Because when you are in fear, you're not thinking straight, your decisions are illogical, right? So me being completely out of my mind, operating in fear, they said the next appointment is March 11th. You got to do it March 11th, and I was like, oh my god. So March 11th comes. I had the money, but I didn't have a ride. So my dog. So remember, I didn't tell anybody. The only person that knew I was going to have an abortion was Maya. I mean, you don't go around telling everybody, but.
Right.
So I couldn't. The only people that knew was Maya, my daughter's father. Maya wasn't available, and my daughter's father wasn't available. So at that point, I'm like, oh my god. So March 11th is here. I'm still trying to have the abortion. Long story short, Justin, I go to the movies on a double date with Maya and her boyfriend, and me and some guy. I am in the bathroom in the movie theater, and the Holy Spirit says to me, "Don't abort her. That's your daughter." The voice was like, to me, it was audible because I looked at my friend Maya and I was like crying. I was like, "Did you hear that?" And she was like, "Girl, no." And then it said it again. It said, "Don't abort her. That's your daughter." So that was to me, from what I can remember, my first time for me hearing it.
Yeah.
It sounds like audible, right? So of course I didn't abort my
Mm.
daughter. Long story short, y'all, so I had to tell my parents. I called my mom. I was scared to tell her in person. I called her on the phone. I was crying. I was like, "Mom, I don't know what's wrong with me. Something is wrong." She said, "Baby, what's wrong?" I said, "I think I'm pregnant." She said, "Well, have you taken a pregnancy test?" I was like, "No." Of course, I was lying. So she was
I
like,
was
"Well,
gonna
take
say
a
you
pregnancy
knew
test."
good well you're pregnant. Yeah.
Right? She was like, "Well, take a pregnancy test and find out." She was like, "Stop crying." So I acted like I took a pregnancy test on a different day. Called her and I was like crying again. I was like, "Mom, oh my gosh." She was like, "What's wrong? Calm down." I said, "I'm pregnant." This is what my mom said to me, y'all. Now, I went through all of that for my mom to say, "You are not the first and you won't be the last." She said, 12-year-old girls are having babies every day and they make it. She said, "The only thing we want you to do is continue with your life. We will help you as long as you need help. Don't have any more until you get married, but you're still going to go on and be great." My dad never said anything negative to me to this day. So I would have aborted my daughter based on something that I was creating in my mind.
Yeah.
I made all of that up.
Made
None
it
of
all
that was,
up.
I made it all up in
In,
fear.
there's so much. I mean, there's so much to be said about that in general. Like the abortion topic is a touchy topic, and from a man's perspective, it's hard for me to really dive into it. I can give my perspective on it, but I'm
Yeah.
not the one carrying it, and I'm not going through that process. But I do think there's something to be said for having someone support you in that decision, whatever that decision is. I mean, obviously, the first support that you had was God, but I think there's some women out there who maybe they know deep down that they're not supposed to do it, but they don't have that support. That's
Yeah.
why it's so important to have people around you who don't, to your point, operate in that place of fear,
Yes.
whether it be a parent or a sibling or a friend who can
Yeah.
look at you and think clearly when you're clearly afraid, don't know what to do,
Yeah.
but you have someone that you can lean on that can give you a clearer perspective.
Yeah.
Because if you surround yourself with people who also operate from that place of lack and fear,
Oh my God.
they push you into a decision. What if you'd have had that on your birthday, and then for the rest of your life,
Listen,
every birthday, that's what you're
every
that's what you're thinking about.
that's
I mean, it's
insane.
just yeah, yeah. But to your point, who's thinking clearly, and what
They're
teenage
not.
girl has any idea of the future and what it could possibly be? And
Right.
I'm assuming every time you look at your daughter, you're like, thank God I didn't go through
Oh
with
my. Oh. Okay. Listen, I literally birthed perfection. Okay. And
that.
not because she looks just like me. It's not why I'm saying that. But
That's why you're saying it. That's all right.
not because God gave me a mini me. But man, I'm really grateful. Here it is though, Justin. Here's the thing, it's the obedience.
Mm,
Because I still could have heard God's voice and still done what I wanted to do because we do
there it
that
is.
too.
That's right. That's
So
right.
I would say to you all also not only don't make your decisions in fear, make your decisions in love, but be obedient. The reason I'm so blessed is because I'm obedient. The way I became an actor, y'all, is because the Holy Spirit said to me, "Go to Little Five Points. It's this place in Atlanta. It's this really cute, artistic, eclectic place." One day, y'all, just out of the blue, God was like, "Go to Little Five Points." I was like, "Okay, okay." So I get in my car, y'all, from a voice that I'm in my mind. I'm hearing. I go to Little Five Points. I park my car. Nothing happens. I'm walking in Little Five Points. Nothing is happening. I was like, God, I'm leaving. Nothing is happening. I go to one last store. The store at the time was called Indie. I go in the store. This guy comes up to me, people, and he goes, "Are you an actor?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "You look like a cute little actress." He was like, "You should take my acting class." And I was like, "Okay." So long story short, I take his acting class. I'm a natural. I was amazing. That's how my acting career started. What if I was like, what if I didn't go to Little Five Points? What if
I
I
think I know the
wasn't in
acting coach you're
school?
talking about too.
So yeah.
Yeah, well, here's the thing too. I think it goes back to discernment, and that's kind of what I was
Yeah.
talking to you about. Me personally, one of the things that I have prayed for more than just about anything else is to have a spirit of discernment,
Oh,
because my voice gets loud. The things that I want to do in the flesh get loud, and when I say flesh, I'm not talking about sexuality or I'm
yeah, I
talking
know.
about what I want to do in my own pursuits of
Yeah.
things that may not be in alignment with what I've been created to do. Um,
Yes.
I use the analogy, well, not the analogy, but the example of the corporate world. Right? There's a couple degrees of corporate experience. There's always this pull to get back into a regular job with a regular salary and have that comfort. That is not what God has called me to do in this season. And
Wow.
so my prayer is to be able to listen and hear God's voice, but also understand when it's Him talking and not me talking.
Okay.
And for me, that goes back to intent. Like,
Yes.
am I doing something that is meaningful? Is it something that is pure in intention? And usually, when it's something that's not even usually all the time, when it's a pure intent, it is from God, because
Yeah.
outside of the will of God is where ill intent lies.
Yeah.
So that discernment piece has always been one of the things that I pray for, more than just about anything else. And
That's
it's
beautiful.
yeah. So I think we'll probably be able to transition from here into what you're doing with men. But
Okay.
obviously there was a man involved in the conception of your daughter. That's a wrap for this episode, pun intended. I want to thank you for joining us. We hope that you learned something about yourself. Hopefully, you heard something that you had otherwise never thought of in that way. We welcome your comments. Please share, subscribe, talk about this with your friends. Our goal is to talk next time about something that you want to hear specifically. So comment, message us, email us. Let us know what you want to hear, what you want us to talk about, what you thought about this episode. And we'll catch you next time. That'll be good.